Hey everyone, it's Lexie. So in today's video I'll be sharing with you all the books that I ended up reading in the month of August. August just flew by. It was just a lot of traveling and just a lot of sights. So you guys probably have seen a few of my travel videos so far. I had a really great time. I did come back with a very bad virus. Luckily it wasn't COVID, but it was just gave me some bronchitis. You probably can hear a little bit of my voice, and I also got an ear infection, so I still can't hear out of this ear. But I survived. I didn't get COVID. I just got a really bad virus that I think I got from my family friends that I was staying with. They have two toddlers, and I don't think I have the immune system to withstand, twins. So especially kids. So I think it hit me hard. I couldn't talk for a while, so my voice is actually doing pretty good. I just can't hear right now. But I still am a little bit congested, but I'm doing a lot better than I was a week ago. But this has been week 3 of being sick. I'm just happy to my knowledge, I didn't give it to any of my family in Canada, my family friends I was staying with, so it was contained. Which was good. So I'm happy, to my knowledge, I didn't give it to anyone, and I was wearing a mask the whole time when I was in public. Sorry, this is probably going to be a hard video to get through. But overall, despite traveling, I find when I travel, I don't tend to read a lot, but because I was sick when I came home, I kind of took the week off from work. Everyone was at a conference anyways. I wasn't able to go. So I was able to, get a lot of reading done. So I read a total of 5 books, 2 of which were short stories, and I feel like they're all over in terms of genre. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. So in the beginning of the month, I ended up finishing The Bronze Beast by Roshani Chokshi. This is the final book in the Gilded Wolves trilogy, and I have a video kind of documenting my entire experience reading through this. So if you want to go to see that, I'll link it up in the cards. But basically this is the conclusion to this trilogy, and because it is the finale, I don't want to spoil too much, but it takes place in the late 1800s in this world where people have some sort of gilded power. So that means they can either manipulate some sort of metals or kind of other organic materials, and so they get approached to kind of go on this heist, and it takes off from there. For the conclusion, I did enjoy this. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, and my boyfriend also read this series as well, and we both agree that I think it would have been better as an adult series, and if they flushed out some more other characters, because it's very obvious who the villain is, or what's gonna happen. It's very obvious what's gonna happen in terms of oh, I wonder who this villain is. Oh, they supposedly killed the villain, but surprise, he's back. I think there was a lot of predictability in this, and I think it would have been better if the plot was more fleshed out, if there was kind of more twists and turns that weren't as obvious. But I think for this series, it's really the characters that really shine. I really love, especially in the second novel, their dynamics with each other. There's a lot of anger and resentment, and seeing them kind of go through everything in here, I really enjoyed just the dynamics, and then kind of working through everything I really enjoyed. And I loved where the characters ended up in here as well. I really enjoyed seeing that kind of progression. So yeah, like I said, it was very obvious, but for me, and the plot was very obvious, and some of who the villain was, I wasn't shocked. But for me, it's where the characters really shine. So this isn't a perfect YA series, but like I said, I think for me, it's really the characters and the relationships that they have with each other that makes it really shine. So if you're looking for something, I didn't really like the first book that much, but the second book was fantastic. So like I said, this one I kind of had a love-hate relationship with as a series overall, but nevertheless, I still really enjoyed the ending. Next up, I read a short story by Quinn called Signal Moon, and it kind of follows this girl who she's living in England during World War II, and she's one of the people that intercepts a lot of the signals that are kind of going on between the boats or pilots or anything like that, whatever that job was. And so she receives, she kind of gets this signal from something in the future, and so from someone in the future that is basically being attacked and ultimately dies in a submarine. And so she is able to contact that person in the future, and he's able to contact her in the past. And it kind of goes off from there, how he kind of shows her that the war was like, they eventually win, it's worth fighting, and all the sacrifices that they're going through, and she kind of helped prevent World War III. And for me, this one, because I don't know, like I couldn't wrap my head around the time travel in here. It was just so bizarre. Like I couldn't understand the kind of time travel of how she can leave something for him that he in the future eventually gets, and he's able to contact her in the past. Like that just did not make sense to me at all. So very confused by it. I didn't really like it. I felt like it was very, again with the short story, it was very rushed, and I couldn't wrap my head around the time travel in here. So I gave this a 2 out of 5 stars. I really did not like it. Like I said, I couldn't wrap my head around this time traveling thing. And I know time travel is not supposed to make sense, but like sometimes you can be like, okay, you know, you can go back into the future and that, but like the way it was set up, I was like, this does not make sense at all. So I did not like it, which is disappointing because I'm a big fan of Kate Quinn's, but this one, it was just not very good. Next up, I ended up picking up The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid, the kind of book talk, BookTube, you know, popular book, and I really like this one. I read Daisy Jones and the Six, or I listened to it on audiobook earlier in the summer, and so I was really excited to pick this one up. I've heard great things about this, and although I did not love this as much as Daisy Jones and the Six, I still really enjoyed it. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. So it takes place in present day, where Evelyn Hugo is in her 80s, and this journalist who's very low in the ranks gets approached by Evelyn, and she wants her to write basically her entire narrative and kind of memoir. So Evelyn is kind of recounting her life, how she started out as an actress, and then the 7 husbands along the way. And I really liked it. What I think, especially like if you compare this to Daisy Jones and the Six, like Taylor Jenkins Reid is able to craft such complex female characters, and I really like seeing this unfold, and you kind of see, you know, how Evelyn kind of used marriages to her advantage, and ones that, you know, meant something in the beginning and then turn out what she was expecting, or just kind of were for publicity, which I thought was really interesting. And then how there's kind of this love of her life that, you know, people don't really know about, which I enjoyed. I felt like Evelyn was just such a complex character. She's very flawed at times. She's very unlikable, and she does things that you don't necessarily agree with, but you still can't help but root for her and her story and just her narrative and learning about her life. And it felt so real. Like this character of Evelyn Hugo felt so real. I was just like, she felt like a real like Hollywood starlet from back in the day, and that is just a testament to how Taylor Jenkins Reid is able to craft these characters that are so lifelike. They're just flawed, they can be rude, they can be mean, but you still can't help but root for them, and I think that is really special. And from the beginning, I was just hooked with like the twists and turns of Evelyn's life, and there is this character of Celia in here that we get introduced to very early on, and I did find her very annoying. Yeah, like I just found her to be very immature, and like obviously you kind of see her throughout kind of this entire novel, and at times like I just felt like she would be getting mad at Evelyn for something that she would be kind of doing something that was a little bit, you know, like worse. So I found her to be very annoying at times, but she wasn't my favorite, but I was able to kind of look past that because I did really enjoy Evelyn's story. So this is a book where I definitely think the hype is well deserved. It is an incredibly crafted novel. I love the historical aspect of like old Hollywood as well, which I thought was really interesting. And just following Evelyn basically throughout her entire life and career was just really interesting. So like I said, this book, the hype is well deserved. So overall, I gave this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. And then kind of continuing on with my Taylor Jenkins readathon, I ended up picking up Malibu Rising, and I'm happy I did because one of the husbands in Seven Husbands, Evelyn, Hugo is kind of loosely like present in here as well. So we follow Mick Riva, who is this famous rock star, and his children. And his children he kind of left abandoned, and they want nothing to do with them. But every year they host this kind of big party, and this party, we know from the beginning, it ends with the house burning down. And so you follow these kids from the morning of the party to eventually the events that lead to this fire breaking out. But you also get flashbacks to the children kind of growing up, and they're like being abandoned by their dad and all the hardships that they've had to go through. And so we follow his 4 kids in this case. This one I didn't enjoy as much as Daisy Jones and the Six or The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars. I felt Nina, the main character in here, to be very compelling. Just her perspective of having to grow up so early and her having to put her siblings first before anything else. Like, she made so many sacrifices for her family and her siblings, and I really thought that was really compelling. And throughout the course of the novel, she kind of like that day of the fire of the party, she kind of learns to kind of put herself first, and I really loved that journey in here. But we also get to follow the other 3 siblings as well, and I wasn't as connected as to these characters as I was with Nina, the main protagonist, and I felt like that. I felt very disconnected. I didn't really care much for their stories. Like, I didn't really care much for their chapters. There's some conflict between the 2 brothers that I literally just could not care less. And we also get other perspectives of some of the party goers in here that, again, that I didn't really care much for. I felt like that took away from, like, it was just kind of like white noise. Like, I didn't really care much for these other stories that are interwoven in here. I really just wanted Nina's perspective. I think if it was more focused on Nina as opposed to the Riva siblings as a whole and some of these random party goers, I don't think I would have cared. Or I think I would have enjoyed it more if it was just more focused on Nina, because I felt more connected to her. But yeah, this one wasn't my favorite. I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars. I still, like I said, I still really enjoyed Nina's story, but there was just so much extra material that I think took away from this main narrative that I didn't enjoy as much. So yeah, not my favorite, but it was a good introduction to, because we do get a preview of Carrie Soto, who is the new like protagonist of the new book that comes out, I think today actually, so that I'm filming at the August 30th. So it was a good like preview into this character, so I'm really excited for that like new book coming out. But like I said, this wasn't my favorite, but it was just a fun read, I guess. So like I said, 3 out of 5 stars. And lastly, this was my final short story. There's just a lot of short stories that were free on Kindle from authors that I knew. This one is Naomi's Gift by Martha Hall Kelly, and she wrote the Carolyn Faraday Lilac Girls trilogy. I don't know what it's actually called, the Faraday series, I don't know. But this one is a World War II historical fiction of this girl that stumbles upon these letters that are written to her by an aunt that she never heard of, and the aunt is in a concentration camp with her sister, who is pregnant with that, like her daughter is the one that's reading these letters. And I thought this would, like, I really enjoyed this actually. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars because it is a short story. You don't get a lot of character development, and obviously like these letters are very disjointed from being written in a concentration camp during World War II. I felt like this would have been good as like a full-blown novel, like just to explore this and like what happens to this like girl who finds out her true past. Like I thought like that would be a better full-blown novel as opposed to a short story. It left me wanting more. I still really enjoyed it, but I just wanted to, like, I felt like it could have been really good fleshed out of like, you kind of get to the aunt and mother story in the concentration camp, and then kind of the aftermath of this girl finding out her true history. So I don't know. I really, like I said, I enjoyed it. I just wanted more. Like I felt like it would have been better as like a full novel as opposed to like a 50-page short story. I did really enjoy it. It was very kind of similar to some of her other, sorry, her other work, specifically Lilac Girls, being from like the concentration camps. So I really enjoyed that. She's obviously very skilled. I have enjoyed her other novels that kind of focus on this from like a greater page count, which I really enjoyed. I just wanted more. So if you're looking for like a nice quick World War II historical fiction read, then I think you will like this. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what some of the books that you read were this month and all of that fun stuff. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.